Hello and welcome to the Ascension Energy Forecast. So how are you doing? It's a sunny day here for a change, so we're enjoying the weather. I hope you guys have had some sun too. I'm just getting everything set up. So grab yourself a cup of tea and come and join us. We're going to be discussing, it's all been about our ability to create our lives effectively right now. So come and join me and let's talk about what the next soul lesson you can learn is to help you get more in alignment with the life you deserve. So May is month number 5, and the energy of 5 is very much one of change. So we're noticing the reading this month is very much about that metamorphosis of you into the best version of you. And today, I think the hint that we've got is a really good practice that is probably one of the weakest things we have as sensitives. So we'll be talking about that a bit more. So say hello in the comments. Let me just get all the comments up here and let me know you're there. And I just want you to start thinking about your life and where you're at. So we're all going through this process of ascension. We're all starting to move into a new life and a new version. And what does that mean to you? Just think about that as you're making your tea and getting ready. So I have a session here on Zoom at the same time as we do this. So I'm just making sure everybody's cameras are off as they're coming in. So welcome everyone on Zoom and welcome to those watching on YouTube live. So at the end of this session, I go live with the people on Zoom. We stay on. So once I finish the YouTube live, don't disappear. We can chat a bit more about what the ascension energy means to you. So we're just asking the question of where do you feel your life is at the moment? Is it exactly where you want it to be? Do you feel connected to the life that you're living, or a little bit like it's not quite in alignment anymore? Because this month, I think we're all feeling the gap a lot more between what we can be and what we are. And I've been noticing it. It's been kind of showing up as it's almost like I've got one foot in one timeline and one foot in another timeline. And I haven't quite stepped over, and it almost feels like I'm trying to cross over a wall, or the shape isn't quite right yet. And I don't think it's a fear thing. I think something is still forming for us to step into. But it's almost like they're asking us to say, how ready are you for this? Hi, Diana. Thanks for saying hello. And Jenny's said hello just before you joined, so that's great. So just start thinking about your life right now and see if you can notice that there's this frustration or this kind of sense that something you've been waiting for now has been just a long time coming and it hasn't come. And it's like you feel that urgency now behind it, that you really want to step into this new life. And it's a little uncomfortable in this middle space. It's kind of like, it's not even that I'm trying to keep the past open and stepping back into that. It is almost like the future isn't completely formed, or at least maybe my commitment to it isn't completely there. And I think that's why today's soul lesson is so important. So everything you do today is creating your tomorrow. So when you come and join me on a Monday and we weave these energies, because if you heard me last week speaking, I said that my light language is what I'm doing now, tuning into the energy, speaking the words that you need to hear to start altering you on a cellular level to change your frequency so you can become more aligned with your soul calling. And over the last few weeks, we've been talking very much about our creativity and the process that we use for creativity. Because if you can't value your creativity, then how are you going to create this life that you deserve? How are you going to create it? What have you got? Because if you're constantly putting yourself down, thinking negatively about yourself, then that is the future you're creating. So switching over into this other version of you that is talking about yourself in the biggest, boldest way is what May is going to be asking of us, because 2023 has no form. There was no clue about what 2023 was. 2020 was about clear vision. 2021 was about discerning the truth. 2022 was about value. There was a clear objective of each of the years, but this year is like, there is no form. You can now decide. It's kind of like the end of the old era, step into that new version of you. And that can be difficult because if you have no structure to follow, how do you create from a blank page? And I know we all say, yes, that's going to be easy. We know what we want, but do we truly know what we want? That something that's not based on our old identities, on our old habits, on our old beliefs. So just tune in and let me know in the comments, how do you feel your life matches what you think it should be right now? Maybe use a number from 1 to 100. And so just let me know if you think you're living 100% the life you think you should be living, or if it's a bit lower. And it's okay if it's lower, because that's the whole point. We're meant to be switching it up. And I think even those that think we're in 100% might find that there's something bigger out there for us to step into. So let me know in the comments how you think about that. Out of 100, 5, Jenny? 30. Cool. That's good, because it just shows that we've got so much more we can step into. So that's brilliant. And I don't think, like I said, even if you'd had 100 maybe last week, I think it's gone down a bit now as this new May energies come in. It's just pushed that bar higher for us to reach even higher. So I don't think you have to worry about the gap. Out of 10, that's okay. I was hoping that was out of 10. So how do you know what you should be doing instead? Is it just a feeling? Is it just like this itch to be something bigger? So I've been kind of tuning into that for myself and trying to sense, like, should I be talking more lives? Should I be seen more? Should I be creating some sort of charity? Should I be going to more people and aiming bigger and writing books? You know, I've been like testing each of these out, and I'm asking those questions just to see how my body resonates with them. And that's what I suggest we all do, is start thinking, like, you know, do you think your life involves you standing on stage speaking to people? Do you think your life involves you running a group of some sort, becoming a leader at work, presenting new ideas? Do you see yourself, well, not see yourself, because you probably can't see yourself right now, but do you feel like that's the sort of thing you should be doing, something bigger? And just tuning into that part and see what you feel. You know, do you feel like everyone says, yes, let's write a book, let's do a talk? I'm trying to think of some other examples that you might find, but it could become, as I say, that leader of some subject, somebody sharing about a new way of being. There's so many different ways that we can envisage ourselves, and then notice how your body responds. Is it yippee, let's go? Or is it very much like, oh, that feels so frightening? Because this is the kind of the pull and the tug, I think, between these two timelines right now. It's kind of like, yay, we want to do that. And maybe when we're dreaming, it's like, yes, you're happy to dream this big dream. And then we come back down to the 3D and wake up. And then it's kind of like, how do I do this? How do I step into this version of me? What do I do next? So up till now, we've been focused on valuing your creative process, which was about understanding that you have unique ways of thinking and doing things that is your abundance. When you tune into that and you value it yourself, then you will be able to sell yourself better to either an employer or to gain clients, because you'll understand the value of what you're here to do. And that's been a hard lesson I've been learning as well. But we also know that we have to be obedient to our soul calling. We have to listen to those whispers, because they actually know the bigger version of us. We talked about having conviction of your beliefs, and believing you are good enough and that you can do this. And then we spoke about sexual energies and how that life force energy has to be activated, which means we have to want to be on this planet. We have to be tuned into the sensual aspect of the human form, because that's why we're here, is to have that human experience in this body. So we have to take advantage of those. There's got to be aspects of that we need in order to do the next part of our life. And then last week we spoke about the creating from the desert, because the world right now looks very empty, but that's a great time to create new ideas. We can come up with all sorts of new stuff. You know, we haven't got any structures around us saying we have to fit into this mold. Everything's falling apart, meaning we can create everything from scratch. So you can see the landscapes there. So we got the ideas, we got these bubbling going on behind the scenes when we're sleeping. So the next thing is now taking action. How do we take the action we need to get us into that dream? And that can be the scariest step of all. You know, that's the time where we have to take everything that we think we believe about ourselves and now start showing it to other people, starting to take action where people can see if we fail and make mistakes. So today's lesson is actually about integrity. And not the integrity as in, are you morally a good person? Because remember, all of these topics are to do with your soul vision of your life and how we're going to create your life. This is an integrity that is to do with you towards yourself. So if we can strengthen our integrity, what does that mean? Well, it means taking tough calls and making tough decisions. It means us standing up for ourselves and becoming our own bouncer effectively. Because it's time to stop giving up on you and giving up on your soul and giving up on your life. It's time to even stop chasing what you want, because chasing what you want, again, is a disempowered position to go after things. If you have to chase for it, if you have to convince, if you have to persuade, all of these implies a kind of a will, a force of will to go and get it. We want to become this magnetic alchemist, that we feel these feelings so deeply in our body, that we connect to that conviction so much that we just are magnetic to the thing that we want, that we're able to choose what we want to go after, not chasing after it, hoping to get the last dregs of something that's left, or making compromises to choose certain things. So let's just tune in to how much integrity we have. So I was trying to think of some examples here. So imagine you are with a family member, your boss, somebody that maybe you have a bit of conflict with, as in you're not completely harmonious with them. So it could be your boss, your parents, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. And maybe there's something that really lights up your soul and you want to do this. So you tell them, hey, I'm about to go and do this thing that lights up my soul. And for some reason, they don't like this idea. Maybe they feel like they're left out because they're not invited, or they feel that it's too inappropriate. Whatever reason they have a disapproval of this particular thing you want to do. And they hit you with this, and this is like the classic statement, but you're not respecting my wishes. I've asked you not to go because I'm not comfortable with you going. I'm asking you, please respect my wishes. What do you feel at that moment in time? How does that feel to you? And feel free to put something in the comments and let me know. So you want to do something that you think lights up your soul. Doesn't matter how inappropriate. It might be something sexual based on our sexual energies from a few weeks ago. You know, it could be dancing or something sensual, or wearing a dress or some clothing that might be a bit more provocative. It could be just simply wanting to be on your own for a bit. Whatever it is, it's something that conflicts with the other person in your life. And that person has turned around to you and said, you're not respecting my wishes. What do you do? What is the reaction you have? So Jenny's saying it makes her laugh, as if I have to do what you tell me. That's good. But there must be somewhere in your life, maybe whether you don't think like that with a boss or something. Because what normally happens when we're sensitives is that we sense the feeling of the other person and we start thinking about ways to compromise to make peace with the other person. And that's what we're looking for as an example of that. Because that's a time where you're starting to give up your integrity. Oh, good. So we get disappointed, but still we'll do it my way. Cool. So just notice, so what I notice with people who say you're not respecting my wishes is that it's a really hard place to be when you're trying to respect somebody else's wishes, but you also have to respect your soul and your soul calling. And there's this compromise argument, especially in relationships, that you should compromise. But in reality, it's difficult to think what that compromise could be that doesn't mean you shutting down your soul. And Jenny says she was surprised she had that reaction, as I'm too scared to tell my parents about my soul work. Yeah, but that's an example, you know, that's an example where you might compromise yourself. So imagine your parents have said, oh, come out for dinner with us tonight. And you say, oh, I've got a thing on, but you don't tell them what that thing is. And then they keep pushing and pushing until you have to now explain why it's important to you. And it starts getting into this battle. Do you give in for an easy life, or do you carry on with what you were going to do? That's what we're looking for. Those are the examples of integrity. So integrity is I was trying to think how to describe it. So like we've got a compass, which is the map of our life, and there are our values and our boundaries. And I suppose our soul calling is part of that map. Then I think integrity is almost like the needle of the compass. And it kind of helps you know which direction to go based off every decision you make. Oh, excellent. That's good news, Jenny. That's a huge shift. That is amazing. Jenny was saying that she wouldn't give in based on her work, which I think is amazing. Oh, that's fantastic to hear. I'm so happy. So integrity is this harmony between your intention, what you're saying, and what your action is. And overcoming any barriers between that intention and action that might be caused by other people is just one part of that. And I loved it because recently I wrote this marriage vow meditation in my portal for people, which was a, we think of writing our marriage vows to another person and all the promises we make to them. But have you ever written your own marriage vows to yourself? Have you ever written down what you would promise yourself and what you would do for yourself? And I think that's a really, really good kind of exercise right now to do with integrity. Because your integrity is your inner love. It's your love for yourself. It's your promises that you make to yourself and what you're going to do and the kind of protection of your projects that you're birthing and the things that you're here to do. It's your boundaries. It's your values, which we've already spoken about. But it's also the way you protect your authenticity. So your integrity is, if you keep changing personalities depending on which people you're around, then you're not in full integrity. You're shifting who you are. When you can be fully authentic, who you are in all situations with all the different people in your life, then you start becoming this single frequency, not something that keeps moving. And to do that as well is about having self-respect. And not the sort of self-respect that we hear in all the songs that they're singing. You know, this is really being true to your word and making this making you your priority, basically. And I know relationships mean that we've always got to do some compromising, but those sort of compromising that we're talking about should be minimalistic if you're in the right relationships, in the right job, in the right situation, with the right friends. Because we should be surrounding ourselves with friends who really, really support us in what we're trying to do, which is go big this month. So it's the ability to say no without guilt and shame. That's what integrity gives you. And it's about not being willing to give up on yourself, which you've just seen from the Zoom attendees, what they've said. They're not willing to give up on themselves. They're starting to feel that protection of themselves, of who they are and what they're here to do and how they have to do it, which I think is what integrity wants us to learn. So you remember I said we're standing between these two timelines and we want to cross over. If we've not been authentic or not one version of ourselves and we keep switching, then you can imagine that this timeline is not going to know which timeline it is. Because when you're with your parents, you're one being. When you're with your girlfriend, boyfriend, you're another being. And it's kind of going, hang on, you keep moving. I don't know where to plug you in because you keep changing who you are. If you could find the integrity to stay in that one form, connected to your soul's calling and to what you're here to do, you can imagine then that that path from this timeline to that timeline is now just a single channel. If you know what your promises are, so say you've made a promise to yourself that your soul work or your spiritual work is important, and you're honoring that with your integrity, you're staying within your integrity, then again, you're just creating this one path to your new timeline. If, however, you're changing your mind and going, well, sometimes it's important and sometimes it's not, then you start muddying the water. And again, this timeline doesn't know how to plug you in. So does that make sense why integrity is important right now? Cool. I'm getting some yeses. So like whenever I do these readings, I have the download of the word and then I have to work it into the soul vision. And it's not always instantly obvious how the word connects because, you know, there's going to be loads of talks on integrity. But this integrity is related to the shifting from the gap, from the old to the new, and that creating that channel. And integrity is almost, like I said, that needle, getting that needle to point in one direction to help you jump over from the old to the new timeline. So some of the issues we have as sensitives is that the more sensitive we are, the more of an empath we are, then the stronger our integrity has to be, because it can be quite easy for us to kind of think we're only giving up a little bit of ourselves for peace and quiet, when actually we're giving up a lot more. So we have to be much tougher on ourselves and make harder choices and tougher decisions to keep that integrity intact. So once you commit to yourself, you will also then be able to, like, once you've crossed over to that timeline, imagine now that you have such a strong sense of who you are. You know what your values and your boundaries are, and you have decisions coming up to you. that needle is much clearer on where it points as to which decision it should be. Because often, like when I'm doing healing with people and they say they want something in their lives, and when we try and test it, we get this kind of wobbling sensation, or for me, it appears that I'm talking to somebody who's telling me they want one thing, and I can feel like my head is spinning because I can feel that they're not focused on that one thing. They say, I want to be, say, I want another job, but then that means moving, or that means I might have less money, or that might mean I'll be further from my family. Yeah, that's a kind of like an integrity pull back. So then you've got the dial kind of going, does she want to go forward? Does she want to go back? I don't know which way she wants to go. And that's what we're trying to use our integrity to help guide us towards our decisions, which is the decisions that are best aligned with us for our best timeline and every decision we make after this. So the sort of things that we might have done in the past would have been, we might have given up some parts thinking we get something else. Have we ever done that? Has anybody ever done that? Where you've, say somebody's offered you a book deal and you're really excited to have a book deal, but it's not quite the right book for you. Can you imagine now? So you've got this book deal and you're thinking, I've got a book deal, but it's not quite the topic I want. But maybe it's okay. Maybe it'll be enough for what I want. I'll just write what they want and maybe it'll be enough. So that's an example of us, again, giving up on our integrity. And the reason we do that is fear, because we're frightened that that might be the only version of that book deal that we will get. So we're willing then to compromise ourselves, to change our values a little bit or change our direction a bit in order to get that book deal, because we're frightened if we don't, we might never get a book deal at all. So it's coming from that angle of scarcity. It's the same with girlfriends and boyfriends and jobs. You know, we sometimes pick the thing that's in front of us that might be only a 50% match because we're a little bit nervous that the 100% match is not going to appear. And with integrity, that's what it's encouraging us to realize, is that we need to keep to our values, keep to our path, and actually realize that that thing is only 50% and it's not good enough. It does not come up to the standards. It's not worth the cost of changing who we are to drop back down to that, because by doing that, it's pulling our whole life off the right timeline. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with people? Now, you might be doing it in small things, or you might be doing it on big things, but just to get that awareness that we can easily do that. Because part of the marriage vow I do to us is I say, I'm sorry that I gave up your values and your vows because I thought I was going to get something else that I didn't actually get. And it's so easy to do that. You know, we always think, and it could simply be that they promised us those things and we saw the red flags, but we didn't listen to the red flags. So we compromised on some aspect of ourselves and we went for it anyway. And then, of course, we got hit with all the red flags. So this is why integrity is so important to get us between these timelines right now. And the other part of this is really connecting to the fact that I want to say, like, on the micro level, you know, perhaps we're aware on the big things, what we will and won't do, but there are going to be lots of little tiny decisions, tiny thoughts, tiny self-talk that you're doing that will knock off your integrity. You know, if you say, yes, I want to go and do this talk, and then you just silently whisper to yourself, I'm scared, maybe I shouldn't do it, that's enough to knock it back. So integrity is coming right down to every single thought, every single word that you say to yourself, and correcting yourself as soon as you notice that that self-talk is not in alignment with your soul calling. And yes, it's okay to be scared. You know, there's going to be fear with this. We're stepping out of our comfort zone. We're stepping onto a new timeline. And this is going to be a huge new timeline. So of course it's going to be scary. But if you surround yourself with other people who are doing the same, it does make it a lot easier. And the interesting thing is, imagine, do you know somebody in your life that you'd recommend or that you'd class as having integrity? Again, remember, we're not talking about moral integrity here, but somebody who's got integrity to who they are. And remember that somebody saying they want to write a book and then doing a movie instead is not a lack of integrity. what you do doesn't matter so much. It's the thing, the energy that you used to do the thing and the way that you do it that's more important than the thing itself. So if somebody said they were going to be an astronaut and instead ended up working as a physicist, again, that's not off alignment, as long as they have the same authenticity, the same values and boundaries that they apply. The what is really not important. It's their living their true authentic self that we're trying to get to. So who in your life do you feel is living the most authentic life courageously, stretching themselves every day, stepping into new versions of themselves every day? Who in your community do you know that is like that? Maybe it's somebody famous, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's your parents. Do you have somebody that you can look up to then on this frequency of integrity? So Diana's got a blogger friend, cool. So are you attracted to that energy? Do you find it attractive when somebody's in their authenticity? And remember, even vulnerability is a strength when it's authentic. A lot, exactly. People like people who are in integrity. They might not know it, they might not know your values, they might not know what you stand for. It's a feeling, it's a frequency that we emanate. And if we can emanate this frequency, others can see it and we become attractive to others straight away. And this is how we moved from that chasing our life to attracting our life. We often chase the things that are not in alignment with us, whereas the things, and when we're chasing, we're losing our integrity, which means then we're not in the right frequency to attract. So think of this, integrity is really important in manifesting our lives. You know, the law of attraction is just one tiny part of manifesting. But if you add something like integrity in, it just adds another level of understanding in. And you can start to see how we can become this alchemist, to become so powerful with our energetic signature of who we are, our authenticity, our vulnerability, our belief in our own value, our understanding of why we're here and how attractive that can be. And then see what people that will attract around you and how successful your projects will be. Because half the time I feel like I see so many amazing people who don't realize they're amazing because they're hanging out with the wrong people. It's the people you surround yourself with. You're in a job that isn't facilitating you to be your full self. And then they shut themselves down and become smaller to fit into that environment. You know, Jenny's heard me say before, but it's that you've blossomed into a butterfly way before everybody else and you're hanging out with the caterpillars still. And it's learning that it's time to move on and find different people. And it's about holding that frequency of you and your authenticity in such high regard that absolutely nothing, nobody, no money, no offer will knock you off your center of what you're here to do. Because each time you give up on yourself, you're abandoning yourself. So I'm coming up to the end of the talk. It goes so quickly, but hopefully you've got the main points here. So we've spoken about how integrity is kind of like a needle and why integrity is so important to get us from the old timeline to the new. It's almost like, because we're not sure of our boundaries, our values, what we're here to do, trusting that we have a creative value, then we're finding that our negative self-talk is taking us back to the old timeline. It doesn't know where to plug us in because we're not authentic with everyone. So it's a muddy, watered area that we need to really now get super focused on creating that life path that we want to get from the old to the new, that kind of shopping list of who you're going to be, and then completely commit to it and decide, promise yourself everything you're going to do to make that happen. And then use your integrity to make sure you stick to it so that you can move on to the new timeline. Remembering integrity is harmony between your intention and your action. It's what keeps those two in alignment to make sure that everything you're doing is in alignment with your soul calling. So guys, think about where you can strengthen your integrity this month or this week, because I'll be back next week. So think of where you can strengthen your integrity this week and create yourself a little action plan on what you can do to to create that. And I think, you know, the thing you have to do before you can strengthen your integrity is actually know what you're protecting. What are your promises? What are your vows and your values to yourself, and create that list, and then promise yourself to, in every situation, to always use that as your checklist before making a decision, and stick to it. So I hope they found that interesting. So I've been doing these now for about 5 weeks with the different topics, and I've just been asking Source to tell me, what do we need in order for us to step into our soul vision? And each week we've had a slightly different perspective, but creativity is your unique value. The key is here that what you have inside you, how you create, what you're here to think about and to change, is how you create money. This is the thing you have to nurture and value, and then find ways of taking action on and presenting to the world. And when you can come so much into that, you'll be able to get the job you want, be paid the money you want, get the clients you want, because these are all the pieces that we need to be our most amazing self. And everything you do today is creating your future. So every tiny thing, just turning up today, you're already starting to change your future by integrating these ideas. So I'm going to say goodbye to the YouTube live and stay with those on Zoom and chat with you guys a bit more. So don't leave me on Zoom, but I'll say goodbye to the YouTube crowd. So I'll be back next Monday at 8 p.m. BST to talk about the next subject. And because I do this, like I channel each subject, I don't even know what the subject is here until next week. So I hope you can join me then. Thanks, guys. And I'll just sign off here. Okay, bye to the YouTube, and see you all live next week, and stay for these